Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris and welcome to a top 10 LEGO video, where today we'll be taking a look at LEGO Ninjago, and specifically the top 10 rarest and most expensive LEGO Ninjago minifigures. Now these of course are going off of the current average price on Bricklink, which does tend to fluctuate a little bit, but of course in the future this could change, but as it is right now at the time I'm recording this, November 2021, this is 100% accurate. One thing I do actually want to note about Ninjago is that what you may notice when watching this list is that many of the figures are from exclusive promotional stuff, and not a ton of them are from the mainline Ninjago sets. You see, specifically overseas, Ninjago actually has a magazine line, where almost every single standard figure from the retail sets is included in one of these magazines. And as such, a lot of the figures that you may assume would be very expensive because, for instance, they only appeared in a large Ninjago set, aren't really that expensive because you can just go and get the magazine for the equivalent of around $5 or $6 US. Honestly, that's kind of what makes this list so interesting to me, because there are a lot of Ninjago minifigures that simply are not very rare because of this magazine strategy, so the ones that are on this list really did manage to exceed this rarity, were never featured in magazines, and have something special of their own. So with that, let's just now start off with number 10. And coming in at number 10, we have the white-robed version of Pythor P. Chumsworth. Now this is one of the more interesting figures because he did actually appear in a standard retail set. For the Day of the Departed wave, he came in the Samurai X Cave Chaos set, and specifically was depicting the white robes that he wore in the rebooted season of Ninjago, and once again in Day of the Departed. If you want to buy him on Bricklink, the average used value is $29.31, and the average new value is around $33. So he hovers around that $30 mark, which isn't that rare, but is particularly fascinating because he was in just a standard retail set. He had an exclusive staff in trans neon green, which was for the serpentine staves there, which is very cool to get. And while the head was basically just reused from the older Pythor variant from the Tournament of Elements wave, you'll notice that the robe for both the torso and the legs was completely all new, featuring that design that we actually saw originating in Season 3. This version of Pythor is particularly rare because it was the first time we actually got him in the white robes, and especially rare because we saw him appear in this outfit in the TV show on 2 separate occasions, which makes it just that much more valuable. Especially comparing him alongside all the other versions of Pythor, you can see why this one in particular is rare because he depicts a very special version of the character. While I'm kinda surprised that the original version isn't even rarer than this, it is still interesting to see, probably because the set he came in, the Samurai X Cave Chaos set, was kind of an exclusive set in a lot of regions. Here in the US it was a Toys R Us exclusive, which you can barely see at the back of the shelf there. With that though, we can now move on to our number 9 pick. And coming in at number 9, we have one of the exclusive Ninjago minifigures. Barely beating out Pythor, you can buy him used on Bricklink for a clean $30 US, as well as new for $40, so absolutely kind of increasing the price there. Now, the reason why this figure in particular is very rare was because he was only released in an exclusive minifigure collection set. Around 2017, we actually got a Toys R Us exclusive set here in the US during Bricktober. You could spend a certain amount to get it, and I believe overseas it was also given out as a gift with purchase at certain LEGO locations. That's why this set in particular is so rare. In fact, if you want to purchase the Ninjago minifigure collection set, it'll cost you around $120 used on Bricklink, so this is easily one of the rarer figures to come in the set, but not quite the rarest. The figure depicts Kai in his golden power outfit from Season 3 of Ninjago Rebooted. This was when he entered the Digiverse and each of the ninja gained a golden form to represent Lloyd's golden power being sucked away. What's really interesting is that they actually made a few modifications for this design. Instead of having plain gold legs like he did in the TV show, they actually added a specialized print just to make the minifigure that much more special. And they also, instead of having a half wrap in gold, which for whatever reason LEGO does not seem to be able to produce, they gave him the standard ninja hood in gold, which is a little unfortunate, a little less rare, but it is still interesting to see. What is very interesting, however, is that Kai actually has gotten a very specialized head specifically for this outfit. They gave him a brand new facial expression that lines up a little bit closer with what was seen in the TV show in terms of having a unique expression for this character. What is very unfortunate though is that multiple batches in the US received a misprint, mine included, where they did not include this special head and instead included a different exclusive head for a Lloyd figure from a different promotion a couple years back. So As you can see here, the head on my figure is actually from the specialized Lloyd figure. Very unfortunate that this misprint was fairly common, especially in the US, which meant a lot of people were not able to get that specialized Kai head, making the head and the figure as a whole that much rarer. LEGO is still to this day trying to release the golden versions of the Ninja. In 2020 we got a legacy version of Golden Zane, but really that's the only other version that we got. With that though, we can now move on to our number 8 pick. And coming in at number 8, we have a Chronix, one of the Time Twins from the Hands of Time series, which again, was one of the only figures to be released in a standard retail set. The price for this figure on Bricklink is around $34 used, as well as $48 new, so again, just barely edging himself above the Golden Power Kai. What's pretty interesting about this is that both of the Time Twins came in the one set, the Dawn of Iron Doom, which wasn't even a particularly expensive set. It retailed for around $60 US in January 2017, so really not that expensive of a set. But because the Time Twins became very popular characters in the Ninjago TV show, their popularity skyrocketed on the aftermarket as well. This is also just a very well-produced figure in general. The Hands of Time wave gave us some of the best Ninjago minifigures we've ever seen, and this figure is no exception. Just look at the amount of detail on the torso and legs, from the copper and silver plating aligned with each other, to a specialized cloth pauldron, and even the additional extra hairpiece included for the figure. This is just simply a very well-produced and well-designed Ninjago character in general. Add to the accessories that he's holding being two of these specialized dual molded time blades, which were not too rare but truly complete the look of this figure, and we have a truly impressive Ninjago villain. One thing I really do appreciate about this character is that he reuses the Rogue hood from the collectible minifigure series with a specialized print on the top, which just makes it that much more special. But with that, we can now move on to our number 7 pick on this list. And coming in at number 7, we have another Time Twin. Specifically, this is Crux. He is a very similar minifigure to a Chronix, although just slightly more expensive. The value used is $34.74, barely pushing him over, and the value new is actually cheaper than his counterpart at $38. So really these two are almost basically interchangeable. In fact, the armor they wear is very similar. Crux's is just slightly more beat up and dented from age, and he has a stopwatch printing on his torso which continues down to his legs, whereas the Chronix was embracing modern technology and he had a smartphone with headphones on his armor piece. What I find particularly interesting though about this character is that we got a young version of Crux in a special Bricktober pack. Included in the very same package as the Golden Power Kai, which we just took a look at, was the young version of Crux, who basically had this exact printing, except he had bright red instead of dark red, and they removed the hourglass on his hip somewhat sloppily because you could still see the upwards part of it on his torso. They just kind of erased it and called it good. Now, despite that figure coming in a much rarer set, this turned out to be the rarer figure, which I just find really interesting and really goes to show that the popularity of these characters were not because they were exclusive to a certain promotional pack, but specifically because of the popularity of the characters themselves of the TV show, which really goes to show just how much of an impact the TV show itself has on the aftermarket for these Ninjago figures. And I wonder, in an alternate universe where Ninjago did not have magazines where they included some of the rarest minifigures in cheap magazines, what the landscape for the Ninjago minifigure market would be like. Reversing the head reveals the Dr. Sander Saunders persona, and here he is, old Crux, right next to young Crux, wearing the vermilion helmet right there. You can see the figures are almost identical, except again, young Crux has the regular red printing, while old Crux is dark red and the hourglass. With that though, we have summed up this set of characters. Really interesting seeing how the market is so high for these particular villains, especially because Season 7 was not one of the more popular seasons. But with that, we can now move on to number 6. And coming in at number 6, we have another Bricktober figure pack exclusive from the same pack that we got Golden Kai from. We now have the white version of a Ninjroid, specifically the white version of General Kryptor. The value used is around $35, so again, just barely fluctuating around the $35-$40 mark, but the value new is $50, which puts him squarely above the Time Twins. What's interesting about this figure is that it introduces a lot of very specialized new colors for molds. Essentially, it is just the standard General Kryptor minifigure, but color swapped to be in white. So we have the special hood wrap on the top, which is painted in silver and purple and white, as well as the armor piece, which was molded in white for the first time with some purple and silver highlights. Other than that, the figure is almost identical to the Day of the Departed version of General Kryptor, just in white instead of black. Now this is a particularly rare figure because a lot of people wanted to amass them for army building. You see, in the TV show, multiple versions of this character appeared as general security drones for Borg Tower and Hiroshi's Labyrinth, which means that if you wanted to set up a Ninjago diorama, you would need at least 4 or 5 of these, if not maybe 10, which makes army building so unfortunately rare because, again, this figure is so expensive and hard to come by, you really probably would only just get lucky by owning one. One thing that I find fascinating about this figure is that as we go on the turnaround here, you'll notice that the minifigure head actually continues the printing alongside the back, front, and side of the head, which is one of the very few instances that LEGO has proven that they actually can do this and have the technology to do it. I just wish they were able to include it in actual standard retail sets aside from exclusives. And here he is, you can see just how identical this is to the original version of General Kryptor, literally using very similar torso and leg printings. He's using the torso design from the Day of the Departed wave with a few minor alterations, but there he is, just a color swap General Kryptor. With that, we can now move on to number 5, and coming in at number 5, we have the Akita minifigure, one of the more recent minifigures from this list who never appeared in a special magazine gift, which is why she is so rare. The value used on Bricklink is around $37, with the value new being $37 as well, so really just hovering around that $37 mark. Now this is a very special variant of a figure because she only appeared in one of the larger sets of the Season 11 Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu wave in 2019, specifically the Ice Emperor's Castle, and she includes a very specialized new cut for a cloth element which is printed on the tips for the red tail of the wolf, as well as having a very nicely detailed torso and legs, which of course are all exclusive to her, including a specialized dual molded head component. Akita was another example of a character being very popular in the TV show, which made the actual figure a lot more expensive, and I would imagine that if they did not include some of the other exclusive minifigures from the set she appeared in magazines like the Ice Emperor, they would absolutely be appearing on this rarest list as well. Akita has 2 different facial expressions, as you can see right here, a smile and a scowl, which is really great so you can get 2 different versions of the expressions of the character, and while the long dagger she wields is not particularly rare, almost everything else about the figure is. Now, in terms of a production standpoint, I do wish that the white printing on the red legs was just a little bit more defined. Honestly, kind of a quality issue with this figure in particular that LEGO very commonly does in their figures nowadays, but you have to admit that this is a really well done figure besides that, and there she is right next to her wolf counterpart, which appeared in one of the smaller sets, and as such the wolf version of her, which is a specialized animal mold, really isn't all too rare. It's just the human version. With that though, we can now move on to our number 4 pick. And coming in at number 4, we have another entry from that same Bricktober pack which gave us the Golden Kai and White Kryptor. This is the Elemental Master of Mind, Neuro. His value used on Bricklink is around $40 with the value new being $44, which makes him one of the rarest figures from that particular pack. Neuro is a really interesting figure because he doesn't actually include many specialized details to him. Of course, the legs are just plain gray. He has a torso which is printed fairly simply. It's really just a tan torso with gray printing, and especially on my figure, you'll notice that the black stripe on the top of his head is actually very much misaligned. They tried to get that lined up squarely in the middle, but they did a pretty poor job of it. So to be completely honest, this is not one of the more well-produced figures. It definitely could have used a lot of improvements to make it a lot more special, but because the character is so prominent in the TV show, and a lot of people specifically want to collect every single Elemental Master, this figure is as rare as he is. I only just wish that LEGO would have reintroduced this character in maybe a legacy set or something, because a lot of people do want to own the Elemental Masters, and this is easily the rarest of them all. And here he is next to the currently released Elemental Masters. We are just missing one, and then we will have them all. So LEGO, when are we going to get the Master of Form, Camille? Because we literally just need one more. And specifically, here is the pack that's contributed 3 figures to this list, the infamous Toys R Us exclusive limited edition pack right there. With that though, we can now move on to the top 3 figures, and coming in at number 3 we have the Golden Master version of the Overlord, pretty much the main overarching villain of pretty much all of Ninjago, in figure form, which appeared in a standard retail set, the Battle for Ninjago City, which came out in 2014. The value used on Bricklink is $40, but if you want to buy him new, the value shoots up to $68. So we're really entering the very expensive territory for Ninjago minifigures. Now this figure came out before Ninjago started doing magazines overseas, specifically those started in 2015, which is why we never actually got this figure in any cheaper alternative. What's cool about the figure is that he recolors one of the Lord of the Rings and skeleton armor pieces in gold right there, so pearl gold, and I really do love the amount of detailing on the torso and skirt piece, which connects down to the actual vehicle that he drives, which is the Golden Master vehicle. You can actually see those specialized claw pieces being detailed printed on his torso, and the head itself is a really sinister and fantastic looking head. Now, what's also very interesting about this figure is that he used to be near or on the top of this list, but around 2019, LEGO actually reissued just the torso of this figure in Build-A-Minifigure stations across the US, where you could get a ton of them for just $10 each. Since that was just the torso, it didn't really tank the value of the figure as a whole that much, but it absolutely decreased it just ever so slightly, which makes him bump down to the number 3 spot on this list. Here is the Overlord's crawler vehicle that he drove in the Battle of Ninjago City set, and you can really see how those Chima spider leg / claw pieces really influence the torso design on the minifigure itself, which is something I just find to be really cool. Actually, you can see the Battle for Ninjago City set all the way in the back right here. It was one of the larger sets from that particular wave of Ninjago, which is why that one is so rare. Actually, you can see the different versions of the Overlord right here, the original one from 2014 and 2 different legacy versions, although don't expect the legacy versions to be that rare in price, especially because they've also been included already in multiple Ninjago magazines overseas, so the value of them is very low, despite the fact that they are very well designed figures. With that though, we can now move on to our number 2 spot on the list. And coming in at number 2, we have a Lloyd DX figure. Now this is really interesting because this figure was only released in one very special exclusive minifigure pack set. In 2014 and 2015, Target released this promotional cube here in the US where you could only get it at Target locations, featuring 4 exclusive minifigures across Chima, Ninjago, Superheroes, and City. This, of course, was the Ninjago figure from that pack depicting Lloyd's outfit in a DX form similar to the other DX ninja suits, just to kind of fill a gap in case people wanted to display all of the different kinds of ninja suits together. Purchasing the figure on Bricklink will set you back around $46 US used, as well as $50 new, so it is one of the rarest figures on this list, despite not even appearing in the TV show once. This is a non-canon figure. Lloyd never wore a DX outfit, and yet they wanted to include it specifically just to make sure that there were DX versions of all 5 of the main ninja, because this was really before Nia joined the team as a full-on member. The figure also included an exclusive headpiece for Lloyd, which is very similar to the headpiece that we actually saw later on in sets, but is a little bit different, just barely based on the printing for the head, just to make it that much more exclusive. While he does not include the standard traditional ninja hood in green, which is a bit of a disappointment, I would have really loved to see the return of the green classic ninja hood from the Ninja line in 1999, they make up for it by giving him armor pads as well as printing his specialized name and logo on the back of the torso. This is a very interesting figure to get. It's really the only one on this list that is not canon to the TV show at all, and it's just something they made literally to fill a hole for collectors trying to collect every suit. An odd figure to get, but it is what it is. Due to the popularity of that Target cube, the next year in 2015, LEGO also did a co-promotion with Target, but they produced it in very large quantities of this particular cube here, which featured a Stone Armor Kai figure, who isn't on the list because this was mass-produced in a larger quantity. But with that, we have now come to our number 1 rarest Ninjago figure ever on this list. And that honor goes to the Big Fig Killo from the Sons of Garmadon wave in 2018. One of only 2 Ninjago Big Figs as of the recording of this video, Killo featured a specialized mold for his torso, which actually accommodated a minifigure head to be placed on top of him. I think that Killo is just a figure that a lot of fans find very entertaining and really funny. He's literally just an oversized human who's part of a biker gang. You can see his shorts kind of barely covering up the bottom of the figure there, which is a really funny detail to literally mold in the crack right there. You also have him wearing this leather jacket with a really specialized detailed printing for the Sons of Garmadon logos, which feels very much like a biker jacket, and you can even see his name tattooed on his belly, or at least the middle letters of his name, the low part of Killo. And all in all, this is just a really funny character design to me. I think a lot of people like it because of how unique it is, how it depicts a character that we really haven't seen in any sort of big fig form or a character style that we haven't seen. And you can even remove the Oni mask of vengeance to reveal his head underneath, although it does scale very nicely when you actually place the mask on his head. Again, what's really great about this figure is that it actually includes a specialized piece to attach a minifigure head to, which we saw in Chima in 2015, but really wouldn't see past this figure until the more recent Thanos Big Fig, which has a much larger head to accommodate it. There's even printing on the side of the arm there, which is really specialized, a large tattoo on one of his arms, which really just makes his figure stand out in general. And especially compared to all of the other generals and minions from the Sons of Garmadon lineup, this is easily the most visually striking of all the figures, featuring Technic holes on his back to even plug in specialized attachments onto his back. So all in all, this is a very rare figure and a fitting one to top off the list of the rarest Ninjago minifigures ever produced. The used price of Killo on the aftermarket is $63 US. You can see the massively oversized bike he came on, with the new price actually being a little cheaper at $60. All in all, the Killo vs Samurai X set, despite not being very expensive, is easily one of the rarest Ninjago sets ever, and this is a very fitting figure to finish this list. Alright, and with that, we have summed up our video taking a look at the top 10 rarest LEGO Ninjago minifigures. Let me know down in the comments below, did any of these surprise you? Do you own any of these figures? And if not, which ones do you actually want? Thank you all so much for tuning into Duck Breaks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks, and bye-bye for now.